Let's go to Sydney, where the Minister for Environment, Tony Burke, is holding a media conference in response to UNESCO's report on the Great Barrier Reef.
The report effectively views the Great Barrier Reef as being at a crossroads, where there have been challenges to the Great Barrier Reef which have been mounting for some time, and some very significant decisions which will be coming to both myself as the Federal Environment Minister and to the Queensland Government. Significant decisions about various expansions along the region there. There are a number of points that are made in the report that's been released overnight which are very important to note. First of all, they do acknowledge the good practice management that is out there and have actually said that that's a good international example in many ways. Notwithstanding that, they've referred to a number of different issues that have posed real threats over time. On some of them, we've turned the corner. For example, there's references there to a 14% reduction in nitrogen levels of runoff. That goes to decisions we took when we came to office in 2007 about not just looking within the boundaries of the marine park, not just looking within the boundaries of the World Heritage Area, but acknowledging what you do on land has an impact on the Great Barrier Reef as well. The changed farm practices that we funded through Reef Rescue have begun to deliver a dividend already. But those changed practices still have a way to go, and there's a call from UNESCO in this report for us to continue that work. But that's been the beginning of the turning of the corner on practices on land. In terms of the work that's done in the offshore areas, there's not a lot of criticism there at all. And the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park Authority, for the work they do, have come up with really providing a good international example. But what we do outside of the marine park in those boundary areas of the World Heritage Area can still have a very real impact on the outstanding universal values of the World Heritage property. There's a particular focus in the report on Gladstone Harbour. Now, there's no doubt Gladstone Harbour was already an industrialised harbour at the time that the Great Barrier Reef World Heritage Area was put on the World Heritage list. In that time, though, there have been significant expansions, and there is a focus and a request for independent work to be done on looking at what's unfolding inside Gladstone Harbour itself, and that's something that I'm going to have conversations with the Queensland Government about. They also draw a distinction between further development of areas where you have existing port developments and areas at the moment which are relatively pristine. We've taken up the recommendation that was made a year ago by the World Heritage Committee that we start a strategic assessment. This is about one core principle. Don't take any risk that the barrier reef somehow suffers a death by 1,000 cuts. Get in front of the curve and look at the property as a whole and say, okay, what are the areas where development can occur sustainably and what are the areas that should rightly be kept pristine? That work has commenced. They've endorsed that work happening. There's been a request that major developments which would conflict with this be held off. I can't take away the rights at law that applicants have when they've already started their approval process. Those rights exist. But I've checked with my department this morning, and certainly for the areas that the World Heritage Committee would be most concerned about, we're not expecting any of those decisions to come to me before the strategic assessment work is concluded anyway.
Why isn't it right to keep all of them pristine?
Well, we don't start with a pristine area. You need to remember the boundaries of the World Heritage Area are significantly bigger than the boundaries of the marine park. And the marine park itself isn't entirely pristine. There's a whole lot of tourism operations. I've stayed at them. They're part of the enjoyment of the park. And I reckon anyone who wanted to undo all the tourism operations in the Whitsundays in the name of keeping the area pristine would quite rightly have a lot of people saying, hang on, we want to make sure that something as magnificent as the Great Barrier Reef can be enjoyed and seen by the people of the world as well. So we're always going to be in a situation where we're dealing with multiple uses. Now, there have been, before it went onto the World Heritage List, there were already a number of ports in play as industrial ports. We want to make sure that the economic opportunities that are there don't get undone. But you don't need to have completely pristine to preserve the outstanding universal values of the Great Barrier Reef. There is a way of having sustainable development. This report is saying, look at the whole area strategically, and we agree that that's the correct approach.
Are you expecting a bit of pushback from the Queensland government?
It's been a rocky last few days between me and the Queensland government, I've got to say. There were statements put out late last night by the Deputy Premier, Jeff Seeney, that give me a lot of hope that we are back on a sensible path forward. One of the concerns that's put forward in this report today are that they want to make sure that there is a strategic Australian national approach between all the different layers of government being taken. And while I've made a number of public statements over the last few days, the strongest yesterday, about the capacity of us to be able to work constructively with the Queensland government, the developments that happened late last night, I have to say, give me renewed hope that we will be able to have a very constructive relationship in making sure that development occurs in a sustainable way, that there's a coordinated approach between the Australian government and the Queensland government, and that does give us a pathway of addressing the concerns that are made clear in the report this morning.
That was the Environment Minister, Tony Burke.